Good afternoon, everybody, to everybody who is joining from across Europe. Maybe some people are joining from across the ocean. It's an important discussion this afternoon on disinformation and the role of fact-checking organizations. My name is Asya Metodieva, and I have the pleasure to moderate the discussion today. Maybe you've read about this information. Maybe you've come across fact-checking organizations trying to show the facts in different pieces of information across different websites. However, they also face different challenges. Disinformation in Central and Eastern Europe is a major threat to democratic security, and we have witnessed major disinformation campaigns exploiting vulnerabilities across the region and seeking to disrupt public opinion on key issues such as, for example, the war in Ukraine, the pandemic, or the upcoming EU elections. Fact-checking organizations are the ones who are on the front line with disinformation, with the fight against fake news on a daily basis. And today we're going to talk about the questions, the challenges that they face, not only when it comes to their daily work, but also to the political context in which they operate, the support that they lack or are able to receive. And I would like to introduce our guests, our speakers. Blanca Jody is a journalist with over 10 years of experience. She is the editor-in-chief of LACMUS, which is the first dedicated fact-checking organization in Hungary, which started its operation in 2022. LACMUS is part of Hungary's anti-disinformation hub, and collaborating closely with the popular news website 444.hu. LACMUS has reached over 3 million readers by this point, and in the first 2 years of its operations, probably the readers are even like larger number. Our second speaker, Kristina Hristova, is the project manager of Factcheck.bg and the president of the Media Literacy Coalition. Kristina was a founder and president of the Association of European Journalists Bulgaria from November 2010 until September 2016. For many years, she was leading the website of the daily Dnevnik dedicated to European issues, Europe Dnevnik. And she has been awarded multiple times by the European Commission in Bulgaria, and is one of the people who is really trying to dedicate full professional attention to fact-checking and fight against disinformation. Thank you once again to both for agreeing to participate in today's discussion. Our intention is to have a series of webinars and like to continue the conversation with fact-checking organizations across the region, because the political situation in many of the countries in the region has worsened, and together with this also the media environment and disinformation campaigns have escalated, which is also an expectation for the upcoming EU elections. I'm not going to take more time. We have about 1 hour, and I would like to encourage everybody who has joined us today to ask questions, to participate in the discussion by posting comments and questions in the chat, and I have the pleasure and the responsibility to bring them to the attention of our speakers. Without further delay, I will give the floor to Blanca for her introductory remarks. You have around 10-15 minutes to tell us more about the challenges that your organization faces in Hungary.
Thank you so much, Asya, for this nice introduction, and thank you so much for having me here in this webinar. Actually, I've only prepared like very brief introduction so that we have more time to freely discuss the challenges. I want to first give you an intro about our organization, how we started. Second, I would talk a bit about the media landscape in Hungary in which we started to operate. And third, I would like to talk more specifically about a very interesting trend of disinformation on platforms, on very big online platforms that we are seeing ahead of the European elections and Hungary's local elections that are going to be held in June. So as Asya mentioned, we are with Dakmus, the first dedicated fact-checking website in Hungary. We launched our organizations in 2022. It is partly funded by the European Commission. And ever since our start, we have become also the member of big fact-checking networks, global fact-checking networks, as the International Fact-Checking Network, and also the European EFCSN, the European Fact-Checking Standards Network. So it's really good to be part of this bigger global community and learn from each other. Actually, introducing fact-checking in Hungary was quite an interesting experience for us because, well, we didn't have to start from ground zero because, as Asya mentioned, we are collaborating with a bigger platform, which is 444.hu. We are from the same publishing house, so we didn't have to build our audience from ground zero, but we already reach a bigger audience thanks to this daily news website. On the other hand, in terms of well, introducing fact-checking as such in Hungary was quite a new thing. And it came in a very interesting time because 2022 beginning, we were thinking that we are just over COVID and all the misinformation related to COVID. We were preparing for the country's elections in the spring. So we saw that, okay, there is going to be like a lot of political disinformation. At the same time, just after starting our publication, 1 month later, Russia invaded Ukraine. So we were faced with a really new challenge. We, as a young organization in Hungary, had to learn how to deal with fact-checking as such. At the same time, we have seen that this amount of disinformation that came together with the war to the whole global fact-checking community was really a new challenge that we started to basically learn by doing. So it was a very interesting time for us. At the same time, it also showed how much of a big demand there was in the Hungarian audience, because very quickly, at the time of the war starting and the political disinformation surrounding the war started in February, we could see a very sudden peak in our readership. And actually, this was the time when we established quite a good readership community for Dakmus. So that is about the beginning. We started out with a pilot project of 1 year, but we got an extension as well from the European Commission. So we are now part of a bigger project with a bigger consortium as well. We are doing fact-checking and we are collaborating with AFP as well, who is also doing international fact-checking, and they're the ones who are working as third-party fact-checkers for Meta, the Facebook platforms in Hungary. And apart from fact-checking, our Disinformation Hub also brings together researchers, political capital, and Mérték Media Monitor in Hungary. And we also have a leg of media literacy programs, which is done by IDEA Foundation. This is what we call a united effort against disinformation, because we believe that actually all the knowledge added together from media literacy, from the research side, and from the journalistic fact-checking side is the cooperation that we need to effectively combat disinformation. So from this beginning, coming a little bit like zooming out to the Hungarian media landscape where we started to operate, I have to say that it's not easy. at the same time, it's very interesting and it's fascinating to be a journalist in Hungary these days. I always like to take this more optimistic side, that we are, we are never. We never have to think about what to deal with. We are always busy with topics and pieces of information to check. Ever since 2010. Since the Fidesz government, the current government, came to power in Hungary, we have seen a constant tightening grip on the independent media landscape in Hungary. It's a very interesting experience for me as a journalist, because right after university, I started to be a journalist in 2014, and that was the time when actually I only spent like a couple of months at my dream job at an online newspaper, which actually quickly came under political pressure. The chief editor was fired. We had to actually establish a new platform where we could publish freely. And it's very interesting to see that my old dream job as a university student, which was kind of the heaven of unbiased journalism, it was called Origo. Now, during these days, is actually one of the most powerful tools in the hand of the government's propaganda machine, propagating a lot of pro-Russian disinformation, Kremlin narrative, lots of political disinformation. So it's very interesting when I actually put my CV anywhere, I have to always put like a little asterisk at my previous workplace that, well, this is not the place what is right now. And actually, I'm not alone with this experience in Hungary, but many of my colleagues have gone through the very same trajectory during their career. They started to work at an independent organization which came under political pressure, was closed down, was sold to a businessman close to the government, and so on and so forth. So if you look at Hungary's media landscape, the interesting thing is when we talk about disinformation, for example, if I talk at conferences about where do you look for like pieces of disinformation, it is like fringe Facebook groups or Telegram channels or whatever. I always say that, well, here in Hungary, you turn on a public television and then you just hear tons of pieces of disinformation. And actually, disinformation is spread from the highest political levels. And because of the very high concentration of the media in Hungary, actually it filters down without actually any barriers to the Hungarian public. So we started to operate in this environment actually in 2022. And third, a very interesting, like I was thinking about what to actually point out from the Hungarian disinformation landscape, which might be kind of unique to Hungary. And I was thinking about talking a so-called organization, which is called the Megaphone Center. It is translated as Loudspeaker Center in Hungary. A very interesting initiative which started around 2019 with the aim of actually reinforcing right-wing voices on social media as well. What happens is that the Megaphone Center organizes trainings to be influencers on social media, who then go out and behave as like genuine influencers on Facebook and TikTok recently. Interesting thing is that they always echo the very same messages as the government is echoing, filled with lots of disinformation, and also advertised for money on the platforms. So actually what we're doing right now ahead of the European elections, which are at the same time as Hungary's local elections, 9th of June. It is a project which looks at political advertisement on platforms, including Google and Facebook. We are actually monitoring, detecting, analyzing disinformation, sponsored disinformation that are spread through these political advertisements. What we see is that political advertisement obviously is very present in all European countries. It is increasing as well ahead of the European elections. What is very interesting to see is that Hungary, even compared to the population, which is not so big, we're barely like 10 million people, but we are reaching the 6th position in political advertisement on Facebook right now in the first since January until today. But until in other countries, most of the advertisers are either political parties or sometimes even companies that are, for example, advertising social issues. In Hungary, what we see is most of the political spending comes from these influencers of Megaphone and also from other civil organizations that are not straight connected to the government, but are actually echoing the very same campaign messages as the government is doing. Why is it problematic? Because it's very intransparent where the spending and the money is coming from. And at the same time, we can show that the big platforms like Facebook and Google, they do have not only a responsibility in actually letting political disinformation be present on the platforms, but at the same time also profiting from it. One of the main examples that we have seen over these months, for example, is that all the influencers of Megaphone quickly thought about, oh, we should do videos about European left-wing politicians that are trying to take Europe to the Third World War, with the same message that the European left wants to take, for example, like Macron or von der Leyen. You can think about like these politicians. They're the ones who are supporting the war. They would like to send troops to Ukraine. In Hungary, we should be very vigilant and not let Hungary's left to get the power in the European elections or in the Hungarian local elections, because there would be bloodshed and Third World War, and this is what we have to be aware of. You can see that this is, on the one hand, like, obviously you can argue that it's like political opinion. At the same time, it also includes seeds of very serious disinformation, sentences taken out of context, with dramatic music in the background. And very importantly, it reaches a lot of people because we counted all the videos and there was 100,000 euros spent on these videos alone, advertising that the left is going to take us to war. Another example of political advertisement being used. So, for example, we had a new political candidate arising. He's called Péter Magyar, who has organized like big demonstrations in Hungary following an internal scandal in the government, and now is presenting himself as a candidate for the upcoming elections. The Megaphone Center and other related NGOs have spent the money of the world actually on discrediting him. We have looked through, for example, the Google advertisement of the previous months. All over Europe, the one advertisement that used the most money on the platforms on Google was an advertisement about this guy in Hungary saying that basically George Soros bought him and he is the propagator of the globalist left. Which is, again, can be considered as a political opinion. At the same time, it is an unfounded claim. There is absolutely no proof about him being financed by George Soros. And well, this is, I think, like the first introductory remarks, just a little bit of sneak peek into what we are doing right now ahead of the elections. And just a little bit of promotion as well. We have just published our English language platform of this project. It is actually supported by an EMIF fund. So if you go to lakmus.hu, you will find a separated election page at the top, where you're able to follow all the spending that was done on the different platforms in Hungary. And we did also translate our articles that are fact-checking these very much sponsored claims, and those that have connections to European politics, such as this globalist left trying to take us to the Third World War. So I very much invite you to check out that page. And yes, I think I leave the floor to Kristina now. And
thank you, Blanca, and of course, feel free to also like share the link in the chat, so everybody who is with us today can actually check it out. A lot of challenges, and I'm curious now to hear what the nuances are in Bulgaria compared to Hungary. Apparently, Megaphone is a rather unique case. However, Hungary also has this like potential to, you know, to spread policies when it comes to disinformation or populism. So hopefully it's not going to become like a regional trend to see like variations of Megaphone. Kristina, the floor is yours. With what is the situation in Bulgaria and how do you see it as a fact-checking organization?
Thank you, Asya. I will speak much more from the perspective of a project manager, because I am not myself a journalist. So I will present the challenges to run and to develop a fact-checking platform in a small country like Bulgaria, where the independent media are struggling to survive from several years now. We have as you know, the ratings related to media freedom, Bulgaria is still on one of the last places. And this little bit for the context. Maybe you know also that Bulgaria is always on the last place on a media literacy development. This is the country in the European Union that is most incapable of resisting the negative impact of fake news. According to this media literacy index for 2023, Bulgaria is on the last place for the European Union and 35th place out of 41 countries. So in this context, Factcheck.bg started to work several years ago. We tried to start the fact-checking activity in 2019. At this time, there was no specific funding dedicated to fact-checking. So we started with very little small funding from the U.S. Embassy small grants program to develop a methodology of fact-checking and to have training for journalists in fact-checking, because we don't have human resources trained in fact-checking. So if you wanted to start fact-checking activity, we needed first to train fact-checker to create such thing in Bulgaria. So it was a big challenge to find journalists who will dedicate themselves to fact-checking. We made several training, and after this we made competition on fact-checking to select our future staff. We managed to provide funding from the European Parliament office in Bulgaria in 2021 to start the same fact-checking activity. And from this time, our main challenge was to survive financially, because from project to project, there is no possibility to sustain a long-term staff, to engage the people for 1 year to work only this. This is a very big challenge. So when we are training some fact checkers, and after this fact check became popular, and some media started to attract our well-trained fact checkers, so it was a struggle to retain the trained team. In last year, we had the support from Google grant to support our fact-checking activity without some specific topic, what was a big relief for us, because we managed to provide permanent contract for 2 full-time fact-checker, and it was a big relief. At this moment, we started to face the other big challenge we had until now in Bulgaria, what is to go outside of our bubble. We developed a big network of regional and national media to publish and to present our fact check on TV. Now we have a partnership with one of the biggest national TV in Bulgaria, Nova News. They present our fact check each week, but still the funding is our main challenge. And nevertheless, now in the European Union, there is large grant scheme, but they are very much dedicated to big consortia led by the biggest international media organization. And this is very difficult for a small local fact-checking organization to enter in this competition. And let's say this became some kind of vicious circle, because the funding goes to well-developed big media organization, and they invest more in tools and expertise, and the small organization are left behind. But the small organization, local organization in country like Bulgaria are the staff, the journalists that are facing the real propaganda, the biggest propaganda, because Bulgaria is one of the focus point for Russian propaganda together with Serbia. These 2 countries are let's say most targeted by Russian propaganda. So I think this is a big problem, because the inadequate European funding strategy does not allow to countering disinformation where it is most needed. And in most cases, in the best, how to say it, the best way we can join such consortium is having a small part being trained by biggest organization, but we don't have access to stable funding to do the work that we need to do. We have to do. So this is one of the biggest challenges that we are still facing, and I really hope that the European funding will change, because at the same time the Russian propaganda is very well focused and stable. And how to say it works better than the European countering efforts. That's why the situation is what is it in Bulgaria, one of the countries that is most infected by Russian propaganda. And at the same time, the EU is continue funding big organizations that are in a country with no where the situation is not so bad as in Bulgaria. Last year, not last year, but last month, we started a partnership with Meta. We are very new with this third fact-checking program. And now we have the opportunity to work outside our bubble because we are reaching topics that we couldn't find before. Thanks to this partnership, but at the same time, we are very much attacked as being the censorship, the censor of Meta, because people don't make the difference between the Facebook moderation and the third fact-checking program. So the disinformation actor that were attacking us before now have another topic to attack us. And as you know, we are attacked as almost all the fact checkers around the world. In Europe, this is the same narrative that we are paid foreign agent, following the liberal agenda that is destroying traditional value, the economy and the peace. These narratives are very common for all these disinformation actor attacking fact-checking organization. So maybe these are the main challenges that we encountered in Bulgaria.
Thank you, Kristina. A lot of points for discussion from both Hungary and Bulgaria and very different perspectives. So I would like to start with a question, but I would also like to encourage our viewers and everybody who is part of today's discussion to join and ask a question. My first question for both of you is, both of you mentioned the cooperation of the cooperation with social media organizations, and from what you described, I understand that some fact-checking organizations decide to cooperate with social media, others decide to work independently, but they're supported, let's say, by the European Commission or in other way. We know that social media has been criticized for not taking adequate measures when it comes to disinformation. So my question to you is there a trade-off or a challenge in this decision to cooperate or not cooperate with social media? What is your experience in the order you decide? Whoever wants to start first.
Maybe Bianca? Blanc, maybe you can start because you started first. So we can follow this order.
Actually, I just wanted to reflect on your comment, Kristina, because you said that you're being attacked with new waves of attack because you started doing fact checking for Meta. Actually, don't worry, because we are not doing fact checking for Meta, but at the same time we are attacked with the same discourse. So even though we are not working together with Facebook as Lakmus, our fact checking website, even before publishing our very first article, we didn't even start. We just announced in Hungary that we are going to launch a fact-checking website with the help of the European Union. Already there were videos about us saying that, oh, the new censors are coming to Hungary. They're going to censor the internet. They are going to censor right-wing voices. And we realized, guys, no, we are actually journalists that are writing articles, and then people can make up their mind whether they want to get informed from our articles or they don't. So actually, I think there is a basic problem, and it also might be the responsibility of us as journalists and as fact checkers, how we can actually explain better to people how we work and what it entails to be a journalist. or a fact checker. I use these actually as like, synonyms, because I do think that primarily I'm a journalist and I'm working in a stricter version of journalism, which is fact checking. At the same time, I do see that in Hungary, because of the political environment, it's not only fact checkers that are attacked, but also in general journalists, because there is a political will to discredit journalists, to discredit what they are writing, not based on facts or not based on actually arguing the claims of the articles, but actually discrediting the source, discrediting who is writing the article, which is a very common tactics that we see in use. As for working together with platforms, yes, we are talking from a little bit of an outsider point of view, because we are not involved in the third-party fact-checking program. But at the same time, as I said, for example, our project that is actually monitoring disinformation on the platforms is partly financed by EMIF, which is a Google-supported fund. So actually, there is a will, I think, in platforms to do something against disinformation, also to support projects like ours to unveil what is happening on their platforms. And there is also the Digital Services Act that was introduced in the European Union. They do have actually like specific points that they have to comply with. And yes, there is a question at the same time, how much of this is yielding result, how much of this is genuine interest of the platforms when they're saying that they are financing fact-checking, when they are saying that they're doing, for example, like free banking videos about disinformation. At the same time, there is still an economic value actually in the platforms way of thinking, when we know from research that actually disinformation travels faster online, gets a lot more emotional reaction from people. At the end of the day, it means more time spent on the platforms, and as well more advertisement money for the platforms because of people staying longer on the platforms. So it actually goes somewhat against the economic interest of the platforms. And we can add, obviously, the very visible, what we're looking at right now, the sponsored disinformation through political advertisements that we are actually monitoring right now.
Kristina, your reflection on the role of social media in this fight against disinformation?
For us, this is very important. We were struggling to have this partnership almost till the beginning of the fact-checking cooperation of Factcheck.bg, because Facebook for us in Bulgaria is the most popular social media platform, and this is the platform that is most affected by disinformation, with several network of Facebook profile and pages that are interconnected in disinformation, reproducing the same narrative. So it was very important for us to go in this environment and to deal with the disinformation in the environment where this is it is spread. This is the first reason why we wanted to start the partnership. And the second one, now we see that we can fact check topics that were outside of our site before, because normally we are focusing mostly on topics that are related somehow in to some important political events, social events, but in reality there are a lot of other fake information related to day-to-day topics that is not so, how to say it, important from important political topics, but in the same time, when we are fact-checking this kind of information, and this not so sensitive political information, it is much easier for the people to accept it, so to develop critical thinking. So it's another benefit, but of course, as I said, the problem is that the disinformation actors now have another topic to attack us, because people don't make the difference between moderation fact-checking program. So it is easy for this disinformation actor to say that we are the censor of Meta. And this naturally undermine the consumers' confidence in us. So this is a problematic issue. But we were attacked even before, so fact checker will be always attacked.
When we talk about the role of governments in supporting or let's say criticizing fact-checking organizations, I will probably start with a question in the chat, and we can develop this a little further. A question from one of our viewers who asks how is the disinformation, how the issue of disinformation is discussed generally by politicians? Does it appear in the public discourse? I would like to start with Hungary, especially in the light of the newly rising political movement and the protests in the recent months. And on the other hand, the question is for Kristina about the Bulgarian election campaigns, and how is Russian disinformation surrounding the national Bulgarian elections intersecting with disinformation surrounding the EU elections? Is there an overlap that you already can observe? But let's start with Blanca first and her reflections on this.
Sorry, I'm just trying to look for the exact question. So it's about the financing of Megaphone, right?
The question is how politicians discuss disinformation in terms of whether it's like part of the political discourse. But on the other hand, I think you can also include Megaphone here, because Megaphone is one of the main instruments for disinformation.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, politicians, well, they do not discuss disinformation as such in the political sphere. What we see as they're actually echoing disinformation narratives with quite a big ease. And in terms of actually what is the role here of the state or of politicians, well, I would rather say that we, for example, would not expect to get financing for our fact-checking activities from state or government organizations in Hungary. We wouldn't even accept that if that was like a possibility, because we would like to remain independent in order to do our job in an unbiased manner. At the same time, the responsibility of politicians would be not to do more damage and more harm because of the discreditation of the journalist. What we see in Hungary in recent months as the most threatening development is the introduction of the so-called Sovereignty Protection Act, which in many elements reflect what is called in Russia the Foreign Agent Act. Actually, it has created a sovereignty protection authority that would have the power to actually investigate anybody who is anyhow involved in campaign activity or political activity, but because of the very loose text of the legislation, it does give the power to this authority to investigate independent journalists who receive any type of funding from other countries, even us, for example, who are receiving funding from the European Union. Even if, for example, this legislation is not going to be used in a practical way, actually it already gives the possibility for communication campaign, for a discreditation campaign against journalists. We have already seen in many cases that there were articles published about us, there were comments, there were emails that we got in our inboxes, but honestly, I don't want to actually get into the details because I think we very much share this experience, especially with Bulgarian journalists. At the same time, I would really emphasize that the most what we would expect from our state actors and politicians is not to do more harm than there is actually.
And if you would like to also respond to the question about the financing of Megaphone, because it arrived a little later on my screen, but also it's particularly interesting project when it comes to disinformation and still quite unique in the region.
Yeah, it's absolutely interesting. Actually, the financing of Megaphone is completely intransparent because Megaphone itself claims that it receives funding from private donors whose name is not public. Actually, there is only one person, a person who is a very pro-government businessman and influencer who said that yes, he did support Megaphone. At the same time, there have been many investigative articles about the finances, and there are several foundations that have received public money, and the public money was dispersed to several other organizations which have like personal connections with Megaphone. And actually, it very much suggests that the public money, actually in an intransparent way, in the end, filtered down to the organization of Megaphone and actually goes into the financing of these pro-government influencers. This is a very big business. You know, you cannot just do this type of trainings and have like 70 people working at your organization and spending like hundreds of millions forints on advertisement if you don't have such a background. There was even a court case against the Hungarian daily newspaper who actually published the first article claiming that in a transparent manner public money is flowing to Megaphone. Megaphone refuted this claim because they said that, oh, there is no proof of this, you cannot show the exact paper trail. But even the court, the Hungarian court, said that is legit to say that in a transparent manner money is flowing, public money is flowing to Megaphone because, well, all the elements that are added up lead to the legit conclusion. So it's very intransparent, and actually this is one of the concerns that I always bring up, for example, in terms of platform transparency together with the European legislation, because honestly, all about the ad transparency database, for example, on Facebook, the aim is to make the spending transparent. At the same time, we can click the box that, okay, the sponsor is Megaphone of one of the advertisers, but at the same time, the ultimate standard behind Megaphone still remains transparent because, well, according to Hungarian law, through freedom of information requests, you just cannot access this type of information.
Thank you. And now going to Bulgaria in terms of how politicians speak about disinformation in Bulgaria. Is it part of the political discourse? And at the same time, is there overlap of narratives when it comes to Russian propaganda and disinformation in relation to different elections in Bulgaria? Kristina.
Yes, thank you. There was such a period that were overlapping between some of the acting politician and the Russian propaganda. Today, it's mainly this far-right group Возрождение that is reproducing the Russian propaganda. But nowadays, the political situation in Bulgaria is changing so quickly in terms of internal politics that somehow the Russian propaganda, the war in Ukraine, is not so much day-to-day subject, the topic on the political agenda. Every day there are changes in the government, as you know, and we are in a period of pre-election period, and at the same time we don't have a permanent government. So somehow this the disinformation topic move outside the political discourse. We have very few government in the last 2 years because we had a lot of governments that was taking seriously the disinformation topic. There were some efforts led by the European Commission in representation in Bulgaria to gather the ministry, all the ministry, to have quick information exchange with the fact checkers, but still this political changes doesn't allow for a long-term strategy against disinformation on government level. What we are really hoping for is to have at least some cooperation with public administration to have easy access to documentation, to document and information when we are fact-checking activity of the Bulgarian government and administration, so to be the process to be more transparent and more how to say, quick in cooperation with the administration, but we don't, as Blanca said, we don't think about public funding to support our activity, but at least this kind of cooperation for easy access, or to have an expert that could answer quickly our question in relation of fact-checking related to government activity. This kind of cooperation would be great.
And maybe as a follow-up, just to make sure that we answer all the questions, what are your biggest fears regarding this super electoral year? In Bulgaria, it's not probably going to be super electoral. Hopefully, we're going to limit to just like one round of elections together with the European ones. But still, like, do you have fears related to disinformation?
Blanca,
in regard to the political campaigns, like to Kristina, very quickly, and then maybe Blanca also wants to add something.
Yes, of course. This the political instability is one of the main source of disinformation. So we fear that the disinformation will increase in this situation.
And
yeah,
Blanca, would you like to?
Well, yes, I mean, I feel a bit funny talking about fears ahead of the election because I feel that we're living in a constant campaign period. Actually, it didn't start this month or it didn't start in January, but it has been going on constantly. And actually, there is more political news, for example, ahead of the elections. But we've been having political disinformation like all around the year. So actually our work is not going to change like very, very much in the upcoming months either. But we have seen in the previous election, 2022, was at the same time very interesting for me also as a citizen, because we had like really a very difficult situation globally as well because of the Russian invasion on Ukraine. We could see that in the Hungarian political leadership, at the beginning, there was a big reluctance to say anything, because I think they didn't know what to say, how to react, because Hungary has been building quite a tight relationship with Russia over the past years. And there was a moment of, okay, we don't know what to communicate. Then actually the government started to find its communication panel, which is, we want peace. And we are the ones who are able to provide peace and stability. And it was very interesting to see ahead of the Hungarian elections that the prime minister candidate of the opposition had one sentence in a TV show which suggested that if our NATO allies or the NATO responsibilities ask for it, we would even send troops to Ukraine. And from this sentence, actually the very big government propaganda machine created a whole campaign saying that the left is going to bring Hungary to war. So actually the selection or actually the election between political parties during the election was really an election between war and peace, life or death. And that was a very, very simple messaging. And well, you can guess that with this messaging, you can reach people very easily. There was even a study after the election, which was called the Political Propaganda Indicator in Hungary, which looked at how much the different narratives, also disinformation narratives, reached the Hungarian audience. And for me, it was really interesting to see the results, because the survey asked like how many people heard about the claim that the left would bring Hungary to war. Actually, almost everybody heard the claim, especially from pro-government people. It was like 90% penetration, but even from opposition people, almost everybody heard the claim. And the interesting thing is, whether you believe the claim or not, from pro-government voters, almost everybody believed it. But even from opposition voters, 30% of people believed that the claim was true. So actually, when we think about political messaging, we have to see that it does have an effect on people. If it's even if it's a piece of disinformation, if it's repeated enough, it does have an effect on the political choice. And my biggest fear, honestly, if we talk about like political topics, is that what we are seeing right now, the advertisement that I mentioned during the beginning of the presentation, is coming back to the same narrative, saying that Europe's left is going to bring us to the Third World War. Well, actually, this is what's going to be the case if in Hungary the opposition wins. And I have to stress here that it's not about what type of political messages are being propagated by either of the political parties, but if it's a simplistic message that contains very serious pieces of disinformation, it really distorts actually also the choice of the people if they're not informed. Actually, they're informed by bad information. And with these simplistic messages, what I really miss as a journalist and as a citizen is to discuss details of policies, ideas about how to lead the country. It would be so refreshing to talk about this. And for example, ahead of the European elections and the Hungarian local elections, not to let these type of simplistic and distorted messages to basically rule the discourse.
Thank you, Blanca. We've managed to pay attention to the key challenges that fact-checking organizations are facing in the past 1 hour, from economic pressure, from having difficulties to find the right people who are trained to do this job, to also cooperation either with local organizations or with social media. We also discussed the political pressure and the fears related to the upcoming EU elections and disinformation campaigns. However, before going, I really want to ask you the last question in the chat. Please, very briefly, 30 seconds each, because this is an important question coming from Serbia. How do you think that joining the European Union has affected journalism and free speech in your country? I know this is not like a topic of related to the challenges of fact-checking organizations. However, we all belong to the same information environment in which these questions matter, especially in the year where we already have the broader framework related to journalism introduced by the EU. Kristina, go first, and then Blanca, and then we can.
Unfortunately, in Bulgaria, the situation with the decreased media freedom and quality of media happened after the EU membership, and it happened after when some politicians understood that or they could buy the media for their purpose. This will serve their manipulation purposes. So it started in 2013. This monopolization of media, and it was after our EU membership, and the EU membership didn't help us a lot against this internal process. This is my sad answer to your question.
Blanca?
Well, in Hungary, we are living the same reality. Well, the Hungarian media situation did worsen a lot after the EU membership, but not because of our EU membership, but in spite of actually our EU membership. What we see is still being part of a democratic community with common values. Actually, there is a pressure from this community that we call the European Union to uphold these values. And even though we can see that, well, there are sticks and carrots policies in the European Union as well, but actually Hungary is very dependent on funds from the European Union, which are spent on infrastructure projects and whatever, you name it. And at the same time, the European Union really has the power to withhold funds in the cases when the democratic values and the common values of the European Union are not present in a country, which is the case in Hungary. So I do think that it's important to say that we are part of a democratic community and we do have common values. So I think that, yes, in terms of monitoring, also EU spending in different countries, also upholding the values, could be improved in the European Union, but it is a lot more than if we weren't even part of such a community where, you know, any country could do anything on a very undemocratic way down as well.
Thank you both. I would like to really thank Kristina and Blanca for these insights. As fact checkers, as representatives of fact-checking organizations in Bulgaria and Hungary, two countries with very, very problematic media environments and also political. We learned a lot, and we are going to continue with this discussion across the region, Central and Eastern Europe, fighting disinformation. And I would like to remind you that this discussion is going to be uploaded on the journalist platform, please share it with friends, with colleagues, with everybody who is part of your network. Thank you once again. Enjoy the rest of the day and see you in the next webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.